Okay. Okay, welcome everybody. I'm so glad you're joining us today. For those of you that were at our conference in May, one of our breakout sessions was Dementia in New Jersey, and we
Oh,
had such a great turnout.
no, your
People
daughter.
complained that they didn't all fit in the room. So we decided that we wanted to do it again, and we're bringing back our speakers. We have Kerri Sherer from the Bergen County Division of Aging Services, Demi Pavlakos from Alzheimer's Association, New Jersey, and Nancy Chiavarlotti, did I get it right? Close enough, from the Kessler Foundation. We invited them back to do the presentation again because we know that dementia is the presence of it is growing, and it affects not just the person with dementia, but their family, their caregivers, the people around them. And with an aging population, we need to be more prepared and we need to understand one, what's going on behind dementia, two, the resources that are available, and three, research that's going on right here in New Jersey so that we can address this growing need. So we have a lot to cover. We're doing this in meeting format, and that's going to make it easier for you to ask questions. I'm going to ask if you can keep your question to the end, and then we'll have an open discussion. If there's something from the particular, from Demi or Nancy or Sherry that you want to ask right now, put it in the chat, and I will bring it up or try to answer you, or we'll hold on to it for later so we can make sure that we cover everybody. But I want to get going. This is going to be, I promise you, a great presentation, and we are so glad that you all joined us today. So, Demi, why don't you start your slides?
Okay. All right, everybody. So hopefully you can see my slides.
You want to click slideshow so it fills up. There you go. Perfect.
Good. Okay. All right, so hi everybody. I'm Demi. I'm from Alzheimer's, New Jersey. So I'll kick us off. Um, Just a couple of things that I'm gonna go through myself, and then of course, like Kathy said, we'll have two other lovely speakers too, and we can answer questions at the end. So I'm gonna cover briefly the difference between normal age-related changes in the brain versus dementia. We'll talk a little bit about the different programs and services that we offer at Alzheimer's New Jersey and how we can be a resource to you and the people that you serve. And then we'll talk a little bit about how we can better serve this population, individuals impacted by dementia, and talk a little bit more about how to share resources. So before really going into what dementia is, I want to cover just a little bit about how our brains change naturally as we age. And so if there's anything that you kind of take away from what I'm going to say, please let it be that dementia is not the same thing as normal aging. So it used to be many, many years ago that people would think that, oh, okay, as we get older, we all just get dementia, but that's not the case. Okay. So it is very common as we get older, for us to get dementia, but it's not the same thing. So a couple of things, I'm going to break this up, as you can see here in the bullet points, of some different things that are very normal as we age when it comes to our cognition. So memory is definitely affected as we get older. And what tends to be the case for a lot of us as we age is that our long-term memories can be fairly well preserved, but as we retaining new memories can sometimes be challenged. Our attention span is also affected as well. So as we get older, giving something simple divided attention remains pretty well intact. But the challenge can be giving something exclusive attention when we have a lot of things coming at us at once. So like the TV's on, someone's talking to us, and then there's also the radio in the background. It's hard to concentrate on all of those things at once, and that can be challenging as we continue to age. When it comes to language, how many of us, I know we're virtual here, but how many of us get that feeling like the word is on the tip of our tongue? So that is so common as we get older. It's really just that word retrieval that can become a little bit challenged, but I don't know if any of you can also relate to this. The word eventually comes to you. It just might take a little bit of time. Maybe an hour passes and you don't really need it anymore, but it comes to you eventually. Reasoning and problem solving. So, what we're talking about here is not that it's impossible to kind of problem solve, but just that as we get older, especially when we're faced with new challenges that we have not faced before, sometimes trying to kind of problem solve our way through new challenges just takes us a little bit of extra time. So, not impossible, just takes us extra time. And so that brings us to processing speed, which is kind of summing up all of this is that as we get older, tasks in and of themselves, they're not impossible for us to do. It's just that it takes us a little bit longer to do things than it might have as we were younger. So, very different is dementia. So, in the DSM-5, it's referred to as major neurocognitive disorder. And so, when we're talking about dementia, we're really talking about like this overall umbrella term that really is defined as a loss of cognitive functioning and behavioral abilities that's severe enough to interfere with a person's daily life and activities. And so, we really see impairment in these different cognitive domains. So, I'm going to briefly go through those. So we see impairments in memory. Most notably, first for a lot of people, is changes in short-term memory. And so a lot of times as dementia progresses, then we see changes in long-term memory. Language is also impacted in a lot of different ways when it comes to dementia. For a lot of people, it can also be word retrieval. So that feeling of trying to find that word, it can feel similar to the being on the tip of the tongue. A difference here is that some people with dementia might not necessarily like get to that word eventually. Um, you see, like I said, language is impacted in different ways. So that can be having difficulty following the conversations around us, maybe using the wrong words for things, like in conversation, pointing to a table but saying chair instead. And for a lot of individuals who speak multiple languages, a lot of times it's reverting back to that first language that somebody knows. Now, self-management is a fancy way of saying self-control. So for a lot of individuals with dementia, there's the challenge for being able to regulate and manage emotions and behaviors. And so this is oftentimes why we see individuals with dementia who might be saying things that might not necessarily be appropriate to a social situation. Or might not be doing things that are quite appropriate. I talked with a caregiver that said, they were in the grocery store, and you know how it's kind of that background music that plays in a grocery store, and their husband just started belting out the song at the top of their lungs, which was, fun, but maybe not quite socially appropriate to a lot of people. This is why you might see a lot of individuals with dementia eventually having some agitation, some different behavioral changes as well. Visual perception, this kind of surprises people, I think. But if you put your hands around your eyes like this tends to be what the visual perception is for someone with dementia. So there are impairments in your peripheral vision, a lot of times resulting in, changes in balance, increased risk for falls, and then problem solving. So as someone has dementia, and as dementia progresses, it's a challenge kind of following multiple instructions. I use this example for a lot of people. Like if you were to tell someone, in a restaurant, like where the bathroom is, you want to go straight back, make the first left, and it's the second door on the right. We're like sitting here and we're repeating those instructions to ourselves so that we can find the restroom. For somebody with dementia, that might be challenging, and someone with dementia may not be able to follow that. So, dementia itself can be caused by what's called neurodegenerative diseases. So, I'll very briefly share that there are hundreds of neurodegenerative diseases that can cause dementia. Alzheimer's disease is the most common. So, another little fact is that Alzheimer's and dementia are not the same thing. Alzheimer's disease is a type of disease that can cause dementia. But there's many, many others. So I won't go into too much detail for that now. But I want to talk just briefly about what we do at Alzheimer's New Jersey. So we're a nonprofit, and our headquarters is based in Essex County, but we cover the entire state of New Jersey. So there are a lot of different nonprofit organizations that have a similar focus, for those who are impacted by dementia. We are a standalone nonprofit, so we are actually a separate organization from the Alzheimer's Association. Our focus is strictly on New Jersey and individuals who live in New Jersey. And so I want to mention just a couple of our kind of core programs, so that they might be able to be a resource to those that you all are serving too. So one of the main things that we do is operate a helpline. So you can see here the phone number for that. But it's not a crisis line, we like to say. When people call us who are experiencing like a medical emergency or a crisis, we really get them to where they're best going to get that care that they need. We might call ourselves like a warm line kind of thing. So we answer the phones during normal business hours, professionally trained staff, and we're really here to kind of help people planning for the future, planning for resources that they need. And so, as I'm going to talk about just the importance of trying to share resources, especially within this population, individuals impacted by dementia. That's a huge part of what we're doing at Alzheimer's New Jersey, is just trying on the back end. We're constantly updating resources, connecting with other organizations, offices on aging, things like that, to try to better understand what resources and supports are available to people throughout the state of New Jersey, since that's our service area. And so we really try to talk with either, it's the individual recently diagnosed themselves who's giving us a call, or the caregiver, family member, friends who's trying to figure out, hey, what's available so that I can better help this person who has dementia. So we also have caregiver support groups. Right now, all of our groups are specifically for the family, friends who are caring for someone with dementia. And so we have a lot in person all throughout the state, and virtual. We have some that are specialty groups. So like some are for spouses and partners who have a loved one with dementia. There's for someone who's caring for someone with young onset, so diagnosed before the age of 65, and then a loved one who might live in a residential facility. We also offer a lot of different education programs. And so I think these are also really important when we're just talking about how best to assist this population. We often say knowledge is power. So a large part of our education programming is just going out in the community and trying to raise awareness about dementia. And so we do that with topics like understanding memory loss, understanding dementia. We're doing programs at places like libraries, senior centers, women's groups, and things like that. We've been doing a presentation on healthy brain habits, because that seems to be of big interest to a lot of people, is what we can do to take care of our brains. So we're oftentimes doing those kinds of programming to try to raise awareness, but we also offer a lot of different education for caregivers who are navigating this new world. And so just to kind of better equip the caregivers to kind of figure out what's next. And so part of that is that we have a lot of guest speaker webinars. So I want to mention, so on our website, we have our webinar library that had a lot, or that currently has a lot of our previous like recorded guest speaker webinars. So you can find tons of great information on there from like attorneys, doctors, all kinds of things. And I think it's so useful. And what's even better is that our webinar library, it's not password protected or anything like that. You can just go right on and watch the videos and get all the information that you need in the middle of the night if you want to. So there's that. I will also mention our respite care and wellness program. A huge part of what we are fundraising for as a nonprofit is for this respite care and wellness program. So we're able to offer one-time $1,000 scholarship to family caregivers to really give themselves a break from caregiving. Because it is almost exclusively funded by donations we receive, there is a waiting period, and we try to be very transparent with caregivers about that. There's a very short application, but it does not ask for anybody's financial information. And then a waiting period, depending on the funding, could be 2, 3 months. Some caregivers have had to wait 6 or 7 months. So there is some variability there, but we encourage caregivers to take advantage of this because, as a lot of us know, caring for someone with dementia is hugely expensive. I will also mention that we do, in addition to a lot of like community awareness education programs, we have been providing training for law enforcement throughout the state, so that law enforcement officials, first responders can also be better equipped to handle situations where they might encounter somebody who has dementia. And I won't go into too much detail about clinical trials because Nancy's going to talk about that, but I do want to mention when it comes to clinical trials, really, research itself is very much dependent upon participation in research. And so we found, because for many, many years on our website, we've had this clinical trial kind of search tool, very similar to like the clinicaltrials.gov on their website. You can search and try to find clinical trials near you. And so we found over the years that a lot of people have not been utilizing the search tool on our website or really even bothering to use the clinicaltrials.gov tool. So we wanted to find something to make it easier for families in New Jersey to find clinical research in their area. And so we've been doing for a little over a year now a monthly newsletter that goes out to individuals impacted by dementia. It's a large majority of people diagnose themselves and caregivers, but a lot of professionals have been signing up for the newsletter as well. But really just to highlight what is going on here in New Jersey. And the response has been really positive, and we're hearing from a lot of different clinical trial sites that they're hearing more from people who are reaching out to see if they might be able to participate in research. And so I think that's really positive as well. So last thing that I definitely want to mention is really what supports are available for all of us to kind of utilize when we're trying to support individuals impacted by dementia. So it's kind of like my call to action here. So as professionals, which, that's all of us here, there's really a huge need for all of us to share what's available to individuals impacted by dementia and make sure that they get this information so they know what's out there. We find all the time when people are calling us on our helpline that, of course, people don't know what they don't know. So many people just don't know what resources, what supports are out there for them. And so, of course, that's a big part of what we do at Alzheimer's New Jersey is just linking people up with what's going to be in their area for them to take advantage of. And so my call to action is kind of for all of us to continue doing that. If you can know about different programs that are available to better serve the people that you're serving, to help kind of increase awareness about those programs, get that information to the individuals who need it. But I'll mention, like listed here, of course, you can utilize us at Alzheimer's New Jersey. There's also, of course, your Office on Aging, local senior centers, libraries. There's all kinds of local caregiver support groups, like oftentimes affiliated with, like a hospital system and things like that, local health departments. There's sometimes very like specific nonprofit, like county specific organizations. So all of these are different kind of places to keep in mind. Like if you are looking to do maybe some more dementia-friendly programming yourself, which Kerri will talk about what that means. But if you're looking to do more programming, like these are the different types of places that you could definitely connect with to just try to get the word out more. And on top of that, a lot of these places are doing programming already that's really dementia friendly. Like different, I'll just kind of, for example, of course, Kerri's going to talk about this, but like different offices on aging, like Gloucester County, Camden County, Sussex County, their offices on aging already run dementia caregiver support groups. A lot of senior centers and libraries are hosting support groups as well. They're hosting memory cafes, which is something Kerri will talk about. Um, like more county specific organizations to kind of link up with. There's like Jewish Family Services and that cover specific regions, or like Center for Modern Aging Princeton. There's all kinds of local organizations. And so kind of finding and connecting with organizations like that can really help to just spread awareness and really help people who are in the thick of it that don't know about programs that we're all doing. So hopefully that makes it easier on the people we're serving. But that's pretty much it from me. I know we've got a lot of other things to get through too, so I'll let Kerri kind of take it away.
Okay, thank you very much. Kerri, if you pull up your slides, and as Kerri's bringing hers up, I just want to say I've personally used Alzheimer's New Jersey as a resource, especially the 800 number when my mother had dementia. And to me, the what helped me the most was really understanding that I'm not the only one dealing with it, and I think you guys do a great job at that, making people feel that they're not alone. So. And now we have Kerri Sherer, the Deputy Director of the Bergen County Division of Senior Services.
You hear me? Good? Yep. Great. Hi, I am Kerri Sherer. I am a licensed social worker. I'm the Deputy Director of the Bergen County Division of Senior Services and the Program Coordinator for the Bergen County Dementia Friendly Initiative. So when I started with the county in 2021, we determined that we didn't have a lot of dementia resources on hand. So we wanted to kind of beef up our offerings a little bit. So I did some research and I came across Dementia Friendly America. Slide, there we go. So Dementia Friendly America is a national network of communities, organizations, and individuals who are seeking to ensure that communities across the U.S. are equipped to support people living with dementia and their care partners. It's based on a model that came out of Minnesota. They were actually the first state in the U.S. to start a program like this. So Dementia Friendly America launched at the 2015 White House Conference on Aging. Their mission was to increase dementia awareness, reduce stigma, provide resources, education, and support, foster communities, dementia friendly, and so that people living with dementia and their care partners can engage and thrive in the community as they did before. So US Aging, which is the National Association of Area Agencies on Aging, is the fiscal agent and program administrator for, I'm going to call it DFA, which is Dementia Friendly America. In case you're not familiar with what an area agency on aging is, we are one. Most counties have their own. It's a local public or nonprofit organization that helps adults who are age 60 and older, also individuals with disabilities and caregivers that live in the community. We are like a one-stop shop for people to plan and coordinate for community services like home delivered meals, respite care, transportation, insurance counseling, and things like that. So what is a dementia-friendly community? It's informed, safe, and respectful, supportive, inclusive, and accessible, and a community that is working to become more dementia-friendly, which really means that people are educated and aware and understand how they can support these people that are living with dementia and their care partners in the community. I think we all know why it matters. I'm sure everyone on this webinar either knows someone directly, works with people with dementia, or knows someone in this situation. So it matters because it has implications for every part of our lives. It has physical, psychological, social, economic, and human rights impacts. And not only for people living with the disease, but also for their care partners, their families, and society. So in New Jersey, the total number of people living with Alzheimer's or other dementias is somewhere between 185,000 and 210,000. The approximately 12.3% of residents 65 and older have Alzheimer's, and New Jersey has the sixth highest rate in the nation. For younger onset cases, there are over 4,700 individuals who are under 65 living with dementia in New Jersey, and we have approximately 280,000 unpaid caregivers who are providing support to these people. In Bergen County, we have over 220,000 seniors, which means that approximately 20,000 of them have some type of dementia. The number is probably higher than that. 17,600 are over 65, 8,200 are over 85, and approximately 2,500 of those people live alone. And 1 in 5 New Jersey residents are unpaid caregivers, which comes to approximately 100,000. Again, I'm sure it's higher than that. This is how the prevalence ranks in New Jersey. So you can take a look and see where your county sits. It's by rank, by percentage, and then you have the number there of how many cases that would mean in a county. So our mission at Dementia Friendly Bergen County is to build inclusive communities for people living with dementia and their care partners through improved opportunities for meaningful social interaction and community awareness, support, education, and training. So who we are is we are a team of community members who are working together, but I want to back up for a second. So using the Dementia Friendly America model, we created our action team. We did a kickoff in 2022, and we have a very robust team of, I think, over 60 members at this point, made up of people living with dementia, caregivers, community members, service providers, advocates, business owners, faith leaders, and other organizations. And what we do, we meet every other month, and our collective mission is to build public awareness, provide training for service providers, and offer essential support to people living with dementia and their care partners. So our goals, as you can see, I'm going to skip this slide because in the essence of time, and we kind of went through this already anyway. So here's what we've done so far. As I mentioned, our action team, we meet every other month. We set our goals and we review our progress and come up with new ideas. We do a lot of training and community education. We have some people on our team who are educators and trainers who are professional dementia practitioners. We work with Alzheimer's New Jersey and Act Now Foundation, which is another resource for people, for caregivers and people living with dementia. So we provide training for senior centers, for older adult service providers, faith leaders, doctors and nursing leadership, libraries, and even students. We did an event last year. We were part of a health fair at the Bergen County Technical Schools, which was great. We had a couple of classes with seniors where we went through, what dementia was like. We did sort of a mini virtual dementia tour so they could actually engage in activities and see what it would be like for somebody living with dementia. It was really impactful, and we were really amazed at how engaged the students were and how much they actually knew. We thought that they would know less than they did, but they actually knew a lot. We do community outreach, so we do speaking engagements, we table at events, we have our social media posts, we do weekly email blasts, we have flyers, we've done some local press. I did a local TV interview, and we've had some newspaper articles. We've had many events. We do memory cafes, excuse me, on a regular basis. If you're not familiar with the Memory Cafe, it's kind of a social opportunity for people living with dementia and their caregivers to do something together, get out of the house and be in a safe environment where they can have some fun and relax and meet other people who are kind of in the same situation. So our model is we generally have either some type of entertainment or activity that everyone can do together. We always have food because that's always a big draw. And we, in the last few months, added a caregiver support group during the Memory Cafe so that people living with dementia are entertained in one room and a caregiver support group is going on in the next room. And that has been very popular. It's in fact to the point where we've now started a caregiver support group in addition to the ones we're doing at the Memory Cafe. Now we have a caregiver support group where people can bring their loved ones so that they don't have to worry about, what they're going to do with that person if they want to get to the support group. So we're having our first one of those actually next week, August 13th. If anybody wants more information, I can send out a flyer or I can send it to Kathy and she can send it out. We did a really interesting event last year called Doctors with Dementia, working with the National Council of Dementia Minds, which is a really a great organization to look into a bit if you're interested in doing your own initiative or learning more about dementia friendly and dementia people living with dementia. So the group is it's all people living with dementia in this group, and they're all advocates, and they do education and programs and whatever they can do to get the word out about their own experiences. It's really fascinating, and they have a lot of subgroups within that. And one of them is a group of doctors who are currently living with dementia. So we had an event at Bergen Newbridge where we brought two doctors from this group into town to do a panel and a discussion with a group of healthcare professionals at Bergen Newbridge. So that was a really great presentation, very impactful. We had a virtual dementia tour, which again is like, it's an experience where you go and you put equipment on, you have glasses, you have gloves, headphones, things to kind of dull your senses so that you kind of understand what it feels like to be somebody living with dementia. And then there are tasks that you have to do, but you're not really given instructions, so you kind of have to figure it out. So it's a very impactful experience. So we were able to do that here for a bunch of our staff. Our first event was our kickoff. I mentioned that briefly earlier. That was just to let the community know that we were doing this. It was great. We had about 200 people. We had professional speakers, we had a doctor, certified dementia practitioner, a caregiver, a few caregivers actually spoke, and then we had a person living with dementia who also gave an amazing speech. So that was a really great event. So as far as resources, we've created some of our own. We created a brochure and a resource guide for people who are newly diagnosed or just looking for information. We have a quarterly newsletter. We're about to put out our third issue of that. We have a web page on the county website. We do a monthly community bulletin email and a weekly community bulletin Facebook post. We also started a library program where we offered training and free books, which we used with some of our, we bought with some of our funding. We offered them books and other resources on dementia and training at the same time. So we had many of the libraries sign up for the training. We have about 7 or 8 libraries that are fully participating in the program right now, maybe a little more. So they have books that were donated by us. They get like somewhere between 5 and 10 books that they can add to their library, as well as memory kits that people can check out and take home, activities that they can do at home. And we do education at those libraries as well. So I just want to talk a little bit about barriers to inclusion, because it's something to keep in mind if you're looking to, again, start your own initiative, or just things to remember, especially as professionals. So there are social and cultural barriers, there's stigma, and so there are, many cultures don't recognize dementia as a neurological medical condition. Instead, they, memory loss, confusion, and behavior changes are kind of downplayed as a normal, expected part of growing old. There's also the shame and the hidden problems, which families often experience shame regarding cognitive decline, and to protect the individual's kind of social standings, their symptoms are concealed from family and friends and neighbors and even doctors. There's also fear of discrimination. Individuals who are in the early stage may avoid a screening due to fear of negative labeling or social isolation, excuse me, being treated differently, or even losing more of their independence sooner than they're even ready to. Their family may want them to stop driving or not want to live alone or things like that. Some cultures place a profound emphasis on kinship care, meaning that they need to take care of their aging parent at home without outside help. I'm sorry, just did that by accident. And then it can be a perceived failure. So some cultures believe that getting help from outside is not something that they should be doing, that it's a failure. It's perceived as a failure. And then there are also cultures that are just underserved generally. The African American community, the Native American community, the Hispanic community all have very high percentages of dementia, but they don't necessarily seek services because of barriers, because of stigmatization, because sometimes health practitioners are not aware of what they should be looking for, how they can help, how to diagnose, where to send people, or, it's just, there's not enough knowledge. People need to understand more what's going on so that we can get through those barriers. So our goals for the future are to expand our education and training program. We're always looking to do that. We want to continue our community support, do more memory cafes. As I said, we just added the support group. Um, we do our community bulletin, and we're looking to engage high-risk vulnerable populations. We actually just applied for an ACL grant, so fingers crossed we'll get that. It is it's intended for folks living at home with who are living home alone with Alzheimer's and related dementias, also for those with intellectual and developmental disabilities who also have a higher risk of dementia. So it's to identify these people and link them up with services. And then the third goal of the grant is to provide caregiver training so that caregivers can be better prepared for behaviors that they may experience with their loved ones. And also, we're always looking to connect with the medical community because, as I mentioned before, unfortunately, a lot of our medical community professionals are not educated as well as they could be on this issue. So if you're interested in starting your own initiative, this is kind of a few steps that you can take. The first thing is to do some research. That's how I found Dementia Friendly America. That's their website there. It's dfamerica.org. Check local resources, get statistics. We did a community needs assessment to understand what people in the community understood about dementia, and for those people who were already living in this world, what they needed. So that helps guide us through, through our goals and mission. You want to identify partners. Obviously, obviously we partner with Alzheimer's New Jersey, as well as, I mentioned all the other partners that we have, organizations and professionals, and they require that you have caregivers and people living with dementia on your team, and that you have experts in dementia as well. You want to identify some funding. We have area plan funding because we're an area agency on aging, so we get federal funding, but we look for funding through other grants as well, like the one I just mentioned. If you want to, you can apply for the designation through Dementia Friendly America so that you can use all of their resources and be listed on their website. You would want to create an action team like we did. Fortunately, in my position here at the county, I have a lot of people that I can access. We have, some 40 providers that we work with already. But, I reached out to anybody that I thought might be interested in doing this, and the response was great. People were really interested. And on the DFA website, they have a toolkit which kind of walks you through everything, how to kind of start your own initiative. One of the things you can do that's easy, that you don't have to start a whole initiative over, is becoming a dementia friend. There's a website here, Dementia Friends USA. So it's they're video clips, and they're educational video clips where they tell you about dementia, and you can choose different sectors of the community. For example, if you work in healthcare, there's a healthcare specific video, and they'll talk to you about how you can be dementia friendly in healthcare. There's one for libraries. There's one for schools. There's one, there's every sector of the community, banks, or businesses, anything. So that's an easy way to do it. This is a group of our people that are involved with our team who did it all together. And then that's about it for me. So if you would like more information on our initiative or would like some help starting your own, it can be overwhelming. And if you look at the Dementia Friendly America website and think it's not really the fit for your community, you can come up with your own ideas. You're welcome to reach out to us. We're happy to help you, provide resources, or brainstorm with you. There's my information, and my colleague Rachel Revich is our program specialist. So if you have specific questions or you'd like to reach out to us, please feel free. I will hand it off to Nancy.
Right, thank you, Kerri. And while Nancy's getting her slides up, there's a question in the chat, and there were a couple of them. At the end, I'm writing them down as we have some questions about cultural sensitivity and cultural barriers that we will definitely get to that at the end. Thank you. Okay, Nancy, if you could click it on the slideshow, or yeah, click it on
Am I
slideshow
good?
at the top. I'm just at the top, click slideshow on the top line so that it's bigger for us to see.
Sorry, it's showing that is a slideshow on my screen.
On the very top bar,
Yeah,
now we see next slide. I think I just messed you up.
sorry.
I said on the very top bar, we have like file, all those things across the very, very top. Click slideshow there so that it takes up the whole screen.
Hang on a
And if
second.
not, that's fine.
Yeah, it had it in slideshow on my screen though, just not.
I messed you up. That's fine. We'll go with it. I'll
Is it
stop
slideshow now?
talking.
Is it slideshow now?
We see it, but we also see the border.
Oh, that's strange because you don't see the border on mine.
That's
Okay.
fine.
Anyway,
Go ahead.
at least you can see the slides. Thank you. So it's a pleasure to be able to talk a little bit about the research that we're doing in aging at Kessler Foundation. I'm the director of the Neuropsychology, Neuroscience, and Traumatic Brain Injury Research Centers at the foundation. And to tell you a little bit about our foundation, our mission is focused on changing the lives of people with disabilities. So our research is all translational in nature. We are focused on real world solutions and taking research and translating it to everyday life with the goal of promoting independence and improving quality of life. We do a lot of work creating and testing novel interventions, and that's a little bit what I'm going to tell you about today. So, in terms of the foundation, we study several different areas. We study individuals with spinal cord injury, traumatic brain injury, stroke, multiple sclerosis, autism and neurodiversity, as well as mild cognitive impairment and healthy aging. So, through working with those populations, we're seeking to improve cognition, mobility, quality of life, and community engagement, as well as employment. Volunteers, as Demi mentioned earlier, are really central to our effort. We cannot accomplish any of our goals without our volunteers. So our participants are central to what we do. We're always looking for new participants for our research studies. We have 10 specialized research centers within the foundation, and these are a listing of the centers. I'm going to focus on the last two because those are the two centers in which our aging and dementia work is being conducted. And those two centers are the Center for Neuropsychology and Neuroscience, which I lead, as well as the Center for Mobility and Rehabilitation Engineering Research. The Center for Neuropsychology and Neuroscience Research focuses on cognition, and the goal is to improve learning and memory in aging and early dementia. Key aspects of our work are the clinical trials. We are constantly looking toward the development and testing of new treatments for cognitive deficits. And we rely on the gold standard to evaluate those treatments. So that gold standard is paper and pencil neuropsychological tests, tests of memory, reading lists of words and asking people what they remember, reading stories and asking people to tell us as much as they remember. But within that, we conduct randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trials. So that means when someone participates in our research, we randomize them to either a treatment group or a placebo control group. The treatment group receives the treatment we're testing, and the placebo control group completes memory exercises. We test people before and after that treatment period to see how they're doing. And that's how we are able to gather evidence on the efficacy of cognitive rehabilitation and whether or not our treatments are actually working. But in
Nancy,
it,
sorry,
yes.
I don't see this. The slides are not advancing for me. It might be me.
Are the slides advancing for others? No?
No, I'm still on the home one.
Oh, wow. It's moving on my computer. That's really interesting. So as I click, it's not moving?
No, so do stop the share and then share again,
Okay.
kind of like just rebooting. Okay, now let's give it another start.
Now what do you say?
Yes, two active protocols. That's now up.
Okay. All right.
And I'll
And
just let you know if there you go. Now it's
okay,
advancing.
thank you. All right, thank you for
Thank you.
stopping me. Okay, so in addition to evaluating our protocols based on the gold standard, we also evaluate brain functioning. So we do imaging before and after treatment. And we also evaluate our protocols based on everyday life and how people are doing in their everyday life. So right now we have 2 active protocols that are being tested in healthy aging as well as early dementia. The first of those protocols is the Kessler Foundation Modified Story Memory Technique, and the second is strategy-based training to enhance memory. In both of these protocols, what we're teaching are memory strategies. We're not using medications. The goal is not to give folks another medication, it's to try to improve memory itself by teaching people how to use different strategies to enhance their memory. So the first that I mentioned, the Kessler Foundation Modified Story Memory Technique, teaches 2 strategies, context and imagery, to facilitate better learning and memory. The protocol is conducted in 10 sessions, 2 times a week for 5 weeks, and each of those sessions is 30 to 90 minutes each. Sessions 1 through 4 focus on teaching folks how to use imagery to improve their memory, and that is basically creating mental images of a storyline. In sessions 5 through 8, we focus on context, and we ask folks to make up a story using a list of words and to visualize that story. So they're learning the context, and then they're also applying the visualization that they learned in sessions 1 through 4. And then finally, in sessions 9 and 10, we focus in on everyday life. So what we're doing in sessions 9 and 10 is teaching people how to use these new skills in their everyday life. So we do that through shopping lists, to-do lists, directions, anything an individual tells us is a memory demanding situation in their life. So the sessions are delivered through computer, but with a therapist, a one-on-one therapist, and it follows a very comprehensive treatment manual. We have a lot of evidence supporting this technique. Most of that evidence is in multiple sclerosis and traumatic brain injury. And we do have one published study in mild cognitive impairment and healthy aging. And we've shown efficacy across different domains. So we know that objective memory is improving, but we also know we are also seeing improvements in everyday life functioning, and we're seeing changes in brain function. So along this continuum, on the left, you have healthy aging. On the right, you have dementia. And there's that period of mild cognitive impairment in the middle where folks are having difficulty, but they don't necessarily have the diagnosis of dementia quite yet. So this is where cognitive decline is not severe enough to impair instrumental activities of daily living, like cooking or doing the laundry. This is a very prevalent condition where over age 60, it impacts roughly 7 to 25% of individuals. And one of the risk factors for this is not enough participation in cognitively challenging situations. So that's one of the things we're attempting to modify. One of these modifiable factors is a lack of cognitively stimulating activity. And that's what this technique is trying to do. So we're testing this technique in 120 individuals who report some memory difficulty in their daily life. This is funded by the NIH, and we're in our final year. A diagnosis of mild cognitive impairment or any visit to a neurologist is not required. That is not a requirement. Someone just needs to be feeling like they're having difficulties in their daily life. They come to Kessler Foundation in East Hanover, and we do a screening for memory. And they're enrolled if they qualify. Either way, they receive $25 for that screening. If they qualify, they then get entered into the study, and they start with the baseline evaluation. So they're paid $75 for that evaluation, and it consists of paper and pencil tests of memory, as I described before, an assessment of global functioning, which is a way of assessing everyday memory and how memory problems are impacting someone's everyday life, and then a blood draw. If they're interested, individuals can also participate in imaging, and our goal is to get half of our participants to take advantage of the imaging, and they're paid not an extra $7, sorry about that, they're paid an extra $75 for that imaging session. After that baseline evaluation, they undergo treatment. So it's 10 sessions in person at Kessler Foundation, and they're paid $15 per session. So they get paid up to $250 for the treatments. And either they'll complete treatment or they will complete memory exercises depending on their randomization. And then they complete follow-up evaluations. So first there's immediate follow-up within about a week of finishing treatment. And then we ask them to come back 6 months later for a long-term follow-up. And they get it paid another $75 for that. Now, there are two reasons a lot of people don't qualify for that study. The first is they have a history of stroke. The second is that they have no memory impairment documented on our tests. So in order to try to get those folks involved in treatment research, we have other studies. So this study is ongoing in healthy aging. So if individuals are healthy, we have a different study that they are able to participate in. And this is a study where we test the other protocol I mentioned earlier that we're working on, which is the Kessler Foundation Strategy-Based Techniques to Enhance Memory, or KF-STEM. And that's very similar. It's just 8 sessions and 3 different strategies. So anyone who's healthy, who's not deemed to have a documented memory problem based on our testing, can go into this study. If they have a stroke, or if they have a history of a stroke, we actually have the modified story memory technique study running in persons who have a history of stroke, so they can still participate. So this is really exciting because what we've set up is a scenario where people can generally participate in research if they want to. In the Center for Mobility and Engineering, we have other research going on that looks at gait and balance and the interaction of gait and balance with cognitive functioning. So what this study is doing is looking at training both cognition and gait and balance simultaneously. And that is because these two functions, they're all controlled by the same brain network, the same brain, and very often they contribute to one another. So if you treat them, the question is, if you treat them simultaneously, do you get a better outcome? And this is done with virtual reality. Virtual reality is often used because it's creative, it's engaging, it can be customized to individual participants, and the immersive environment increases motivation. So this is a study. This is also a clinical trial. So patients come in and they complete a baseline. Then they go through 12 one-hour training sessions, and then they complete post-training evaluation, and then they come back for a 1-month follow-up, very similar to the cognitive study I was telling you about. These are images of, they could be randomized to either standard physical therapy, which is what is done across the board right now, or on the right side of the screen, you see personalized cognitive integrated motor training using virtual reality. That's the new therapy that's being tested. So they could be randomized to one of those two conditions. So this is just a summary of the research opportunities that we have. In memory, we have the 3 studies I was talking about: the story memory technique in mild cognitive impairment, the story memory technique after stroke, and then STEM in healthy aging. And then in mobility, we have the cognitive integrated motor training in mild cognitive impairment. I want to, of course, acknowledge our funders, because we couldn't do any of this research without our funders. And then I just have on the screen now a summary of volunteer opportunities with QR codes. So anyone is able to simply scan the QR code and volunteer for any research, or print this out, pass it on to folks. We are still in both of these studies, all of these studies, welcoming new participants. So we really appreciate it if you could spread the word. And that is it for me.
Hey, thank you. So I'm very pleased to see how much is going on in New Jersey. And I think when people are first experiencing dementia, or they get the diagnosis for a loved one, they, it can induce panic. But I hope everybody feels better knowing there is so much out there for us. And one of the things I wanted to start with questions, and if anybody has a question, please raise your hand, put it in the chat, wave if you don't know the raise hand function. But I wanted to ask a little bit about, well, on one of Kerri's slides, and maybe Nancy, you know this. Do you have any idea why there's such a difference in different counties with the percentage of people that have dementia? Because it's not the size of the county, is it? What's going on there?
It's not the size of the county because it's percentages. I was
Right.
actually interested in that as well. It could be it Kerri, were the numbers the percentages of people over a certain age that had dementia, or was it the whole population?
I think it was the whole population. Someone actually did the research for me, so I just have the numbers.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think it might also have to do with who lives there. You know, when we were talking about underserved populations and
Mhm.
you know, groups that are more prone, I think it might have something to do with that. You know, there's a higher
Okay.
percentage in African American communities, Hispanic, and you know that kind of thing. So that might be some of it.
Okay.
Beyond that, I'm not that sure. Oh, and
And then
yeah, they say air pollution could have something to do with it as well.
and then my that leads into my next question, which is let's talk about some of the cultural barriers. Is in some I think Demi brought up shame that people might feel, or expectations that of course you're going to take care of your family, or just assuming this is a natural part of aging. Um, why? I mean, good, bad, whatever, neutral, why are there so many cultural differences? Is that okay to have them, or is that something that we need to talk about and look at so people get more support and help?
I mean, I think it's certainly okay, you know, that there are
Okay.
different cultures, there are different beliefs. I think it's just, you know, the importance of getting the education and information out to those people so that if they want the resources or need the resources, they know where to go. They know what, you
Mhm.
know, where they can get help, you know, how they can get help, what they can do. So I think that's the most important piece from my perspective is just getting the information out there to people, regardless of their beliefs, you know,
Okay.
trying to reach those communities that may not believe what we're saying, but
Right.
you know, giving the information anyway, because there might be some people in that community who do want that information. And, you know, that's, you know, we got to try to break down the barriers.
That's true.
I think too, like just to add to what Kerri is saying, what we found when we talk with a lot of caregivers, and especially in caregiver support groups, that feeling, and it is very much cultural, of needing to take care of your loved one,
Hmm.
whether you feel particularly connected to them or not. And it's such a hard expectation that a lot of people put on themselves. Um, and there's a lot of guilt associated with that.
Okay.
But I think the hard part too is that there's just such a large number of people who are not opening themselves up to receiving support when there
Okay.
is that cultural expectation of just having to do it all yourself and not leaning on anybody. Um, and so I don't think there's any easy answers to how to solve that, but I think it's just a conversation of, maybe that is something you want to do is take care of your loved one, but there are different supports out there to just try to ease this load a little bit.
Yeah. So if
Right.
you need them and if you choose to
Mhm.
pursue them, they're there, but it's not, yeah, I even have friends who quit work to care for their aging parents, with their parents with dementia. And that in their culture, that work, the family was not comfortable with a caregiver from the outside coming in. So, and it was all good for them. Expected that the oldest daughter would quit work, and that's fine. Um, so someone put in, why is U.S. citizenship a requirement for the caregiver 1,000 stipend? I don't know what the caregiver 1,000 stipend is.
Oh,
Do you know what that is?
I think that they're referring to our respite care and wellness
Oh,
program because
oh,
we
your
offer
program.
that,
Okay.
yeah, the $1,000 scholarship. So actually, so glad that you're asking this question because so we have typically required a W-9 form that caregivers have to complete as part of the application. And that's really just an IRS requirement that we have to, through our own financial reportings, we have to require everyone completing and receiving this scholarship has to complete this W-9 form. On the W-9 form, it requires a social security number. So for some people, which we have encountered this, may not have a social security number to put on that form. And so, actually, just this year, the IRS has now changed some of their requirements. So we no longer need to require that W-9 form. So we've updated our application. And so we're really excited about that because then it just opens up the door for people to be able to, one, complete the form more easily because the W-9 form kind of confused people, but then also certainly can assist people who are doing the hard work of caring for someone with dementia, but that were not able to complete that form before. So, new
Thank
developments.
you. Yeah. And Lori Feldstein, you want to come off mute and talk to people about the palliative care benefit because that's very new. It just opened up in April. And that opens up a lot of care benefits for people who are supporting people with dementia. I
Yeah,
can't
thanks,
find you. There
Kathy,
you
so
are.
much. I put some information in the chat, and you can certainly go to our website to connect to all the information about this new benefit. But the state just launched, and starting in April, a new Medicaid benefit for all people with serious illness, including patients with Alzheimer's and their caregivers, to bring a lot more home and community-based services directly to people to help their quality of life improve and to help keep them at home for as long as possible. So I just wanted to encourage people to learn about this new benefit. And we've received some grant funding to go out into communities. We've actually trained ambassadors across the state who speak multiple languages and come from different cultures who can come into the community and through a community-based organization or at a health system and give some information about what palliative care is because there's a lot of confusion about palliative care and conflating it with hospice, which it is not. And there's really very limited awareness about this brand new benefit because it's brand new and the state just launched it. So we've got a lot of resources to bring to your communities. If there's interest, I put my email in there and you're welcome to be in touch with me directly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? You all, the three of you covered so much. I thought there would be more, but if that's all, I will close it out. I want to thank you for repeating this. It was a great presentation at our conference. Clearly, there's the need and the interest in learning more. I am going to send the recording and slides to everybody that registered, whether they were here in person or not. I will send that out along with your website so they can get more information. So again, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you, Kerri and Nancy and Demi, for talking about this really, really important subject. I'll see
Thank you
you
for
all
having
soon.
us. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks.